Hi, welcome back to the workshop for episode 31 of Great Guitar Build Off 2023. And in this episode, we're hopefully going to be getting the body wings glued on, but we're also going to finish off sorting out the tremolo and the cavity cover on the back of the guitar. Okay, so we've got the neck carved and I've spent a little bit of time off camera kind of sanding this now, and it's sanded to 240 grit and it's all feeling absolutely lovely. Very, very happy with that. And with that done, we've only a couple of quite major jobs to do before we can actually get this thing ready for finish. The one that's worrying me is this control cavity cover, because what I would love to do with this is create a cover out of the spare material that we cut off the thickness of this blank that's got these laminations in, so that the cover is kind of a perfect match for the rest of the body. Now I've got more than enough material to do it, both in terms of length. We could quite easily get 2 out of this, I think, and in terms of width, it's actually much thicker than we need it. So that's good. However, there are a few issues. Firstly, there's a lot of stuff inside this cavity and some of it's going to be moving. So we need to make sure we've got enough clearance depth-wise, and also this material is wood. It will move even though it's laminated. So I need to try and keep this as thick as I can to make it as stable as possible, which directly contradicts the situation that I've got with not having enough room. So what I'm going to do is I'll bring you in for a closer shot of this and we can talk through the issues and what I intend to do to get around them. And here you might be able to see the problem. There's virtually no clearance between the springs and the top of the body. If we get a rule onto that, we've got about 3 or 4 millimeters, which is not enough. Basically, I would like to keep the thickness of this cover plate to around about 5 or 6 mil if possible, just to give it some structural rigidity and to lessen the chances of it moving and warping and twisting and stuff. So with this current setup, I'm not going to be able to do it. There is a fix, however, because currently this has got a 36 millimeter trem block in it, and these are detachable and there are replacement ones available. As far as I'm aware, the smallest one I can get is a 32 millimeter one, which will give me an extra 4 mil of clearance. So that's going to give me about 8 mil to play with, which is kind of bringing it into the ballpark of what I want. Now I've currently got this shimmed up so that it's kind of in a level state in the body, which will give me the dimension for its resting position. However, if I take that shim out, now in use, when you drop the tremolo bar, it actually pulls this lot down and away from the cover plate, which is great. I would imagine I'm going to spend much more time pushing the bar down than pulling it up. So that's a bonus. However, when you let it go all the way up to its maximum position, that trem block is only a mil or 2 below the surface. So we do need more clearance than we've got. So the solution is a smaller block, and I've ordered one and it came this morning and it's the wrong one. I wanted a 32. I thought I'd ordered a 32. It said 32 on the picture on the website, but it was actually a listing for a 37. I don't know if you can see that. So I'm not going to open this one because it's going back, and I've got a 32 mil on the way. Unfortunately, it's going to be a week before it arrives, which is a bit of a problem because I would have liked to have got this all mocked up with the correct size on before I started to do any cutting. As it stands, I'm going to have to do this kind of on faith a little bit and hope my dimensions and my workings out match the reality once I get it all set up how I want it. I'm pretty confident it'll be okay. The other fly in the ointment, however, is where these springs are at the other end, because as it stands, we can't really drop them down any further than they already are. So that might be a problem. There might be a fix in so much as we can kind of route a little bit more material out where the spring claw is and just drop that down a few more millimeters. Wouldn't need to be much at all, but I'm pretty confident that that could be done as well. There might be an argument that that would change the geometry of things. My response to that would be, I'm dropping this end by 4 millimeters. Dropping that end by 4 millimeters should just make it exactly the same as it was. So I'm not sure if that would be valid or not. So in short, we've actually got quite a little bit of work to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is we'll get this all stripped out, get rid of the tremolo, and we can start to work out how we're going to go about this. I think this is going to be quite a long job. Okay, so here's where we're at. The pickup route is 24mm deep. This route is 16mm deep. So that is 40mm, unless I'm very much mistaken. This section of the body is 45mm thick. So between the bottom of here and the bottom of the pickup route, there is only 5mm of material. I want to go down 4mm. I don't think there's any way I'm going to be able to route down 4mm without bursting through that final 1mm of thickness of material. I don't want to go through. That would be absolutely horrible. So that can't happen. However, my pickup route ends here, where this line is. So it doesn't extend all the way to the front of this cavity. Luckily, I only have a bridge pickup, so a neck pickup getting in the way of this isn't an issue. Now, you might not be able to see there, but that claw, when it's right up against there, kind of is behind that line. But we already know that the screws weren't all the way in, so that's not going to work if I just route that section out. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to route down just the other side of this line, and I'll go down that 4, maybe 5mm. And then once this goes in at an angle with the screws right at the bottom of that route, that might be enough just to get me the extra clearance that I need. If not, what I can do is then just put a kind of a bit of a slope on there just to make it work a little bit better. Okay, so I've just set up a little block of wood in there as a temporary fence, and I've set the depth of cut on the router for 20mm. So we'll just go down and take that additional 4mm of material out of there. Well, that has worked. It's dropped it down a little bit. I've got about 3mm clearance there, which is clearly not enough, but it has dropped it down ever so slightly. But the claw is now sat on the little ledge as we transition from what was the bottom to the new bottom. So what I'm going to do is take all this out again, take it to pieces. I'm just going to kind of chamfer that off a little bit, probably use a chisel just to kind of transition smoothly between the two, and hopefully that will allow the claw to go down just that little bit further. Okay, so I've taken that little bit of material out now, created a little bit of a kind of a slope back into there. And I think we can see that I've actually created quite a bit more clearance by doing that. I've got probably 8 or 9 millimeters now of clearance down to that spring. The others perhaps not quite so much, but I think I can tweak the springs a little bit just to bring them down a little bit further. So I think that will give me a similar amount of clearance as I'll have at this end once I get the smaller block in place. So with that established, what I will now do is get this all set up for taking out the material that we need to remove for the cover plate to go in. Okay, so I've set this up off camera, pretty standard for me, 3/4 MDF, super glue and masking tape. I'm going to cut a channel all the way around, 5mm deep by about 6mm wide. Just going to use the little router because I think that's all it's going to take. So I'll very quickly whip this out and we can move on to the next stage, which is actually preparing the insert that's going to go in there. Quite happy with that. So next up, we need to break out the planer and get this bit of material cleaned up into something that we can use a little bit more readily. But looking at this, we don't need any of these outer 2 laminates. So I think the first thing I'll do is I'll just whip those off on the bandsaw off camera, just so I'm cleaning up a little bit less material, just save myself a little bit of time. Okay, so that's the piece of wood cut down. It's a little over 5mm thick now. It actually feels relatively stable. It's not easy to twist, which is a good thing because we don't want this to move any more than it absolutely has to. So that's promising. So what I'm going to do now is just take a very rough measurement for length. I'm going to get it as close to one end as I can and cut off as little as possible, basically just to make sure that I've got another piece in case it all goes horribly wrong. I'll rough that down on the bandsaw and then we'll start, first of all, working it in for thickness so we know it's the appropriate thickness to fit into the slot. From there, we can start working one end down to the shape we need. Once that's all fitted up, we'll then do the other end so it drops in and out nicely. That will all make a lot more sense as I work through it. Okay, and that's pretty much fitted in now. It all lines up very nicely with the laminations, but it does still need a little bit of fettling just to get the gap around the edge a little bit more even. But on the whole, I'm very happy with that. I think it's gone really nicely, and I think that matches in pretty well considering. So I'm going to continue with sanding this up off camera just to clean it up and get it a little bit closer to an absolute perfect fit up. Next, I can't see anything that's going to stop us getting the wings glued on this thing, but that's going to be for the next episode. I'll leave this one here. So as always, hit that like button if you've enjoyed this, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.